Hello, everyone. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to pair up two records in your collection and see how strange it would be as a combination to play them back to back? Well, that's what I'm going to do here on the next installment of Northern Vinyl Guy.
Up in the north, where the vinyl spin, there's a guy with a passion. Let the stories begin. Northern vinyl guy with a tale to tell, obscure and rare. He knows them well. Drop the needle, let the music fly. Discover hidden gems with Northern Vinyl Guy.
Hello, everyone. Daryl, the Northern Vinyl Guy, back at you with a new video. And today, I was thinking about this for a period of time. What would happen if I took my records and I went through them either alphabetically or just bin by bin and took two records side by side, and I wonder what would happen if you played them, back to back. Would you get a country disco combination of music, or maybe I'd be getting, I don't know, some world beats with I don't know, new age music or something like that. What would the combinations be? So that's kind of what I'm going to be doing in this video. Is I'm going to be going bin by bin, my collection, and just picking out possible strange combinations. If you'd like to give this a shot with your own collection, feel free to do so. If not, leave some comments down in the section below. If you're new to my channel, please give me a thumbs up, press the subscribe button, and of course, as always, if you are a returning viewer, always appreciate your support. And so with that in mind, let's get to this, and let's see what strange combinations I've got in my 1,300-ish record collection. So basically, the way that I do my records is I alphabetize them from A to Z, and within those, there's going to be a few strange things. I actually don't alphabetize by, quote, various, any various albums, or say K-Tel or whatever. I actually do alphabetize by the title of the album, so we might get some of that in here. So let's check it out. So the first combination we've got here, we've got the Australian soft rock band from the early 1980s, Air Supply, and of course their album, The One That You Love. Of course, the big hit off of this one was The One That You Love, but it also has Here I Am on it. I can't remember if there was any other tracks on here. Yeah, I think it's just those two that were the two big singles. But we've got some soft pop on there, Air Supply, The One That You Love. And right beside it, side by side, we are going to be taking a look at some country music. And that is Alabama. So we go from, the soft Australian rock, early 80s, to another 80s record, 40 Hours a Week, which I believe that the title track on this was the single. Yeah, it's just on the RCA Victor label here. But yeah, don't think that you see too much. If I was to play this back, this one might be a little palatable. Soft rock followed by soft country. All right, we are going to be looking at not just disco, but why don't we look at some disco Christmas with some Boney M. About a year or so ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, I lost a bet, and I had to basically rank the songs on this album and rate this album. It's not a terrible one. If you've been watching my channel for any extended period of time, you will know that I'm not a huge disco fan, but Boney M's Christmas, not a bad gig. I do like Feliz Navidad and Little Drummer Boy, things like that. Not awful, but what is it partnered with? Well, next alphabetically beside Boney M in my collection is none other than arena rock, ballad stuff, Bon Jovi, the Best of Crossroads album. This has all their 80s big hits, from ballads to, arena rock, like I said, Blaze of Glory, In These Arms, Bad Medicine, Living on a Prayer. They're all on here. So nothing like listening to disco and then going into 80s and 90s power ballads slash arena rock music. All right. Well, why don't we go with a little bit of new wave, the Cars' greatest hits, which is a fantastic album, just what I needed. It's got drive on it. You Might Think, Good Times Roll. Um, I actually have multiple copies of this album. This has My Best Friend's Girl on it. Yeah, You Might Think. All those classic 80s tracks. This is all the Cars that I actually really need, although I do have Candy-O, and I think I have another album of theirs, I can't remember. But what is this followed up by? If I've got the Cars, well, up next, we're going to be going with a little bit of outlaw country, another, I guess, maybe greatest hits type album, and Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire. So, yeah, this one has Ring of Fire. It's got the Rebel on it, Peace in the Valley, 40 Shades of Green. I don't mind Johnny Cash. I mean, it's not something that I go to every day, but I can't imagine throwing this on back to back with some new wave classics. And of course, Rick Ocasek has a very different style vocally than Johnny Cash. All right, speaking of new wave, this one's truly bizarre new wave. I've talked about this before, the Deserters. There is a song on here called Alien. I'm not gonna get into the specifics of the lyrics, but it is truly bizarre in a very disturbing way. I mean, the rest of the album is pretty tame, but if you want to know what I'm talking about, check out the song Alien by the Deserters. Very new wave, but I would like to call it the extreme side of new wave, and on the purple Capital label. So if we've got some really bizarre new wave, well, why don't we talk about a very well-known artist? Of course, greatest hits, but Neil Diamond, that classic 60s soft pop, soft rock. This one here's got Sweet Caroline, which out of all the songs that's on here, there's something about it. I just can't stand it. When I was in university, it got overplayed because the school that I went to, their hockey goal scoring theme song was Sweet Caroline. And the year that I went and was watching, they were scoring rampantly. So it was like you're winning 7-0, and every time they score a goal, you're getting Sweet Caroline. It was just annoying. It was overplayed. But it also has Cherry Cherry. It's got Solitary Man, Kentucky Woman, and more for this greatest hits. So nothing truly more bizarre than going from really weird new wave. And when I say weird new wave, check out the Deserters Alien, like I said, and then follow it up with Neil Diamond. I don't think it's a combination that you're going to see too often. And speaking of combinations you're not going to see too often, well, why don't we talk about some prog music? Many of you know that I'm really into Emerson, Lake and Palmer. The very first concert, oddly enough, that I ever went to live in my life was an Emerson, Lake and Palmer concert in Quebec City. They were playing there, and I got to listen to Lucky Man, which is my favorite ELP song. And this is a Trilogy is a really good album. I could have brought out Brain Salad Surgery and stuff like that, but of course, alphabetically in this case, that's not the case. So Trilogy is the last one that I have by them, because I don't do it by date or release date or anything like that. I do it alphabetically by title. So Trilogy by Emerson, Lake and Palmer is followed up by, and some of you are going to go, why do you, if you don't really like disco and that type of genre, why do you have so many of them? Well, a lot of them I either inherited or I got them through various collections, but I actually don't mind the emotions. So R&B, soft music, possibly a little bit of disco. Best of My Love was what they were known for, which is not on here, but this album this is the Sunbeam album. It's got the song Smile on it. Ain't No Doubt About It, Time Is Passing By. So if you like, I guess, that R&B disco-y stuff from the 1970s, It's a pretty different follow-up to prog rock and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Now, in one of my bins, this was inherited from my grandparents' collection. My grandparents lived in Europe for 2 to 3 years, I think it was, in the late 60s. My grandfather was stationed in the Canadian military in Germany. And while they were there, they like to buy albums like this. Will Glahe in Bavaria, very famous German musician. And this is that German pub, Schlager type music, pretzels and beer, Liechtensteiner polka, the accordion, all of that stuff on one album. Of course, it's on the Decca label, but it's on a Decca label I've never actually seen, this 4x4x4 one. Really neat label, but I guess if you like that pub music from the 1960s with the accordion and all that, this might be your jam. But where this falls really weird for me is that everybody knows that my favorite Canadian band of all time is Glass Tiger. And going from Will Glahe to Glass Tiger, I mean, maybe it's not so far-fetched. I mean, this is East Coast music, East Coast Canadian music, and they do have some of that maybe Celtic pub style in some of their songs. I'm thinking of like the song My Song and My Town. A little more East Coast beer drinking music. But I mean, the rest of this, Watching Worlds Crumble, Suffer in Silence, This Island Earth, I mean, these are very different songs. This also has Diamond Sun, and my favorite personal Glass Tiger song is Far Away From Here. This is probably, to me, as far away from each other as you're going to get, Will Glahe and Glass Tiger. Now, speaking of far away, another Canadian band, and I mean, this is not a band, but a Canadian musician. This is Corey Hart. He was a Canadian heartthrob, definitely in the 1980s. Everything in My Heart, Sunglasses at Night. But this one here is the Fields of Fire album, and the Fields of Fire album has I Am By Your Side, which is a really soft, slow song. Take My Heart, same thing. A cover of Elvis's Can't Help Falling in Love, Broken Arrow. I mean, these are just different songs. I like, Corey Hart, but if you're looking for Sunglasses at Night, that is not what this album is. This is a little bit more on the softer side, heart-throbby stuff for Corey Hart. And of course, we're going to follow it up. And this is what I was talking about with my various artist thing. I don't list these under the V's. These go alphabetically on my collection based on the title of the album. And in this case, it's Hawaii's Melodies. So some Hawaiian music. Yeah. Canadian heartthrob to Hawaiian music. Once again, this was inherited from my grandparents' collection. I have no idea why they had it. My grandfather just listened to all kinds of different stuff. And of course, this is on Waikiki Records. But yeah, Maui Girl, Blue Hawaii, The Wedding Song, Lovely Hula Hands. Very different combination of music. Followed, obviously Corey Hart, followed by Hawaiian music. I don't know. I don't know if I'd be able to listen to that through on through. Now, speaking of Hawaiian beach music, this isn't Hawaiian music, but this is definitely beach music at the max. Jan and Dean, the story of Jan and Dean, 1960s surfer rock music. This has Dead Man's Curve. It's got Surf City. It's got Little Deuce Coupe, Help Me Rhonda, Fun, 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 I Get Around. Obviously songs that were even done by, Beach Boys and things like that. Californian beach music, Jan and Dean, which is fantastic stuff. And of course, tragic scenario, the Dead Man's Curve thing. And of course, I forget which one it was, Jan or Dean, but, paralyzed in a car accident. Beach music followed by, this was a singer I've talked about from Canada. It originally started as a family band, a Christian band known as Deliverance in the late 70s. And then he went solo. And then after his music career ended, or even during his music career, he was a theologist. He was a professor at King's College in London and Toronto, Ontario, and then he's got out of the scene altogether. That is a guy named Paul Jans. I think he's got some great music. This one here, a little lesser known, but it does have the song "Close My Eyes," which was the single from this. "Go to Pieces" was another single that is on this, High Strung, the title track, of course. But yeah, nothing like going from some beach music, Beach Boys, Jan and Dean style, to potentially borderline Christian 80s soft pop music. Now we're going to go, speaking of 80s music, we're going to be looking at some Nick Kershaw, I guess that 80s rock, not classic rock, but 80s rock. And of course, this is the album, The Riddle. Title track is the big known one on here. Great solo artist. I like this. He's got some good guitar music and stuff like that. Definitely a far cry from, and everybody knows that I have a really extensive Greenlandic collection, bands from Greenland and say Denmark. I have a band and they're called Kimia, Kimia. I'll show you on the back there, Kimia on the label. But all of their music is in Greenlandic. I mean, this is Greenlandic rock, I guess you would say, or soft rock. But none of their songs are in English. Definitely way different than 80s Nick Kershaw on guitar, things like that. As you can see, if you look closely at the label, you can see that the songs are definitely in Greenlandic language. But very cool stuff. If you want to check out Kimia, definitely give it a listen. But once again, very different than Nick Kershaw, his style of music. Now, speaking of classic 70s stuff, why don't we look at the Steve Miller Band and the Abracadabra album, which is a great classic album. But you will never get a stranger follow-up side by side in your music collection than what I've got here. Yeah, I mean, once again, this is that classic 70s classic rock stuff, followed by video game music. And we're going to go with the Minecraft soundtrack, which near and dear to my heart. This one, I've told the story before, I'll tell it again. This is on green vinyl, of course. Nothing more greener than a Minecraft album. But my daughter got this for me for Christmas a few years back. One of the, it's actually not one of the few. This is the first gift that my daughter purchased for me with her own money, working at a part-time job. So I definitely love this. Loved playing this video game with my kids. And funny enough, my students in my class, if they ask me to play some music that they can listen to while they're working, they go with the Minecraft soundtrack. This is just soft and mellow. Like I said, a far cry from the Steve Miller Band's Abracadabra. All right. Wow, this video is turning out to be a little bit lengthy, but it is what it is. I've got about 10 more albums here to show. Why don't we go with 1960s, the classic lineup here. Roy Orbison. Gotta love that 1960s rock. And Roy Orbison's greatest hits. I've been noticing that I got a lot of greatest hits albums in this side-by-side collection. I know that I had recently, about a month ago, done my thread for greatest hits. And of course, Chris Mann, the king of greatest hits albums, might as well dedicate some of these to you. What do you think? Do you have any greatest hits of Roy Orbison, Chris? But anyway, this one here, classic. It's got Blue Bayou. It's got Working for the Man, Born on the Wind, Lana, which is probably my favorite Roy Orbison song. I don't know why, but this is fantastic. Roy Orbison. So what is Roy Orbison followed up by in my collection? Well, why don't we go to Africa? Why don't we listen to some African beats? Why don't we go with Osabisa or Osabisa? And I believe this is a self-titled, yeah, this is a self-titled album. Very colorful. I've shown this before. You really have to be into that folk world music, African style, but I love this band. I want to get the Osibi Rock album. I got to find that one. It's got a song on it called "Who's Got the Paper," which is a dumb little ditty which my dad used to play all the time when I was a kid. But if you were into African folk music, maybe Roy Orbison followed by Osabisa might be your jam follow up on your turntable. All right, I talk about these guys all the time. My favorite 90s band is Primus. This is Tales from the Punch Bowl, just a quirky band. Mentioned this in my last video, or one of my most recent videos. He did an interview, of course, with Rick Beato on Rick's channel, talking about the history of the band and, you know, what type of bass he plays. He doesn't actually refer to it as slap bass. In fact, Les Claypool says that he can't play slap bass. He calls it plucking. But Les Claypool, to me, is one of the best bass guitar players that's ever lived. Love these guys. Very quirky, alternative 1990s stuff. This album here's got Winona's Big Brown Beaver on it, which was a popular track. It's got Mrs. Blayleen. It's got Danza Jig. It's got Southbound Pachyderm. Very quirky music. So if you're going to follow that up with something on your turntable, why don't we look at, you know, the king of Minnesota himself, and we'll go with a little bit of Prince and the Revolution, you know, Around the World in a Day. Of course, this one here's got, what is on this? It's been so long since I've taken a look at this particular album. Paisley Park, Raspberry Beret, Temptation, America. Of course, if it's gatefold, might as well show it. It's got the lyric sheet on the inside. But there is nothing more different than, you know, 80s Prince and rock. I mean, maybe one could classify Primus and Prince as very quirky individual projects from their 80s and 90s decades. So maybe we could look at it that way. I mean, maybe it's not so unusual. But I think it's unusual that you're going to have some alternative followed by Prince and the Revolution. And speaking of music that's going to be unique, I don't talk nearly enough about reggae, but I do have an album of, you know, this is a K-Tel style album, Reggaematic Sounds. And this is more like 60s, early 70s reggae. No Bob Marley or anything that's on here. But I bought this actually on eBay many, many years ago from Jamaica. And it was a really decent price. This is a heavy, I think probably 180 gram record from the late 60s, early 70s. But it's got the Freedom Singers, the Sound Dimensions. Yeah, I mean, it's got a really cool version of Aquarius, Let the Sun Shine In, by the Sir Coxsone Singers. The Sound Dimension, like I said, the Heptones. Very cool stuff. So we got some reggae here. But what is reggae followed up by? Reggae is followed up by none other than REO Speedwagon and their High Fidelity. Keep On Loving You, Take It on the Run. These are all great tracks. Yeah, I mean, if you know, you know. These are definitely not on everybody's back-to-back playlists unless they're switching their Sirius radio channels quite often. All right. Speaking of outlaw country, well, why don't we go with trucker country music? This album here always reminds me of Pee-wee's Big Adventure because there is a scene with Large Marge in which she is the ghost driver of the truck. And of course, that is what the song Phantom 309 is all about by Red Sovine. 60s outlaw country, trucker country music. Love this stuff. Just very quirky stuff. But I love it. You gotta love this. I mean, he's in his, not in his, well, maybe it's his trucker uniform. It looks more like a mechanic's outfit from the 1960s. And he's just hitchhiking on the side of the road. I used to love doing the pull cord on the trucks and trying to get them to honk when I was younger. I lived in a mining town, lots of logging trucks that were up there. But there is going to be no pairing that is more different than trucker music to the soft sounds of Spandau Ballet and their one-hit wonder track, True. I know this much is true. I might even look at it as a little bit of yacht rock music to a degree. I can't really say too much more other than Spandau Ballet is just soft 1980s music. True was played to death on the radio. All right, we've got, I think, 3 more pairings here. Yes, 3 more pairings. We're going to go back to disco, but I love this album. This is probably my favorite disco album. If I'm going to talk about disco, and a disco album that I actually truly like, it's going to be The Tramps, and I love the Disco Inferno song. Used to love that commercial they had with the gorilla that was on there, and burn, baby, burn. Just a really cool disco stuff. Really gets you pumped up and going. They should play a little bit more of this. Now, if I'm talking about disco that I like, it's going to be The Tramps, because they're just really, I mean, to me personally, I think some disco music is just rubbish. But you want a strange pairing? Here we go. Why don't we talk about disco mixed by side with some Triana? I bought this while I was in Spain, and this is 70s Spanish rock music with some flamenco influence in it. So if you want some flamenco music mixed with rock that is followed up, with disco, this is your pairing. So yeah, I got some weird pairings in my collection, side by side alphabetically in my collection, and none other than maybe these ones. Let me know your thoughts. Well, why don't we go with some Van Halen? This is a great album, 1984. Of course, this has 1984 on it. It's got Jump. It's got Panama. This is the David Lee Roth days, rocking on stage, arena music, filling up the stadiums, followed up by none other than the Fake and the Phony. I showed this in one of my recent videos, but I am not ashamed to say that I used to listen to this when I was 13. It doesn't get any weirder than Van Halen, followed up by Vanilla Ice. And of course, Ice Ice Baby, The Furthest Thing from Panama, Jump, and Arena Rock. And of course, he got pretty much sued because he didn't ask for permission to sample, Under Pressure by Queen. And Vanilla Ice. I mean, what else do I gotta say? I mean, he was a phony, but I still loved him. Not ashamed to say that I liked his music. And we are going to end this off with a very unique pairing. And I showed this one on our Wednesday night show. My grandfather used to listen to this. I don't know if he bought this at Columbia House or something like that. Anyway, if you like the panpipes, and you like new age music, well, none other than Zamfir and the Lonely Shepherd. I've never been able to listen to this entire album in one sitting either. Only been able to listen to one side at a time. But let's pretend that we do listen to both sides. We flip it. We listen to both sides. We're going to go from panpipe new age music, and then I finish it. And why don't we finish off with, speaking of a musician that not everybody can get into, I respect this album. I respect this guy, but he's got some really weird stuff out there. None other than Zappa, Joe's Garage, Frank Zappa and Joe's Garage. I mean, what else can I say? Joe's Garage, Catholic Girls, Central Scrutinizer, just an all-out unique, weird album. I don't know what he's trying to go with here for the look, like maybe looking like a little Rambo there. I don't know. But Joe's Garage is the last thing that I would expect to see back to back with some new age music in Zamfir. So, yep, this is a 30-minute video. If you got this far, please let me know down in the comment section below. What did you think of this idea? Hey, if you want to do it as a thread, why don't we try this out as a thread? What are some weird pairings you got in your collection? I'll do this as a thread. Start it off as my own. And, yeah. Let me know your thoughts. Weird collection. If you're new to my channel, like I said, leave me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment section. Click that subscribe button. And to all you returning viewers, I hope you got this far, 30 minutes in. Cheers, everybody. And until next time, we'll see you next time.